Hello fellow cinephiles, 90s Film Guru here. Thanks for joining me today. For those new to the channel, my name's Sean, also known as the 90s Film Guru. I started this channel to really talk about TV series and movies from the 90s that I really loved growing up watching. So thanks for joining me today. Today I'll be reviewing Tango and Cash. This came out in 1989 and was directed by Andrei Kononofsky. Pronouncing that correctly, I'm really terrible with pronouncing names, but that's kind of how it's spelt. Anyway, this is definitely one of the most fun, like late 80s action movies. I really enjoy this. I think both Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone are really good in it. It is a little goofy and silly, but it's still highly entertaining. This film went through a lot of trouble getting made. It went through a number of directors, it went through a variety of things. It was produced by John Peters. Now, if you've seen Kevin Smith's talk about the Superman he wanted to create, that movie he wanted to do that got killed because John Peters didn't want Superman to fly and didn't want him in the cape and wanted him to fight a giant spider, that they would use the giant spider much later in Wild Wild West. He's a guy that started as a hairdresser who ultimately became a film producer. Now, I find anything he's involved in, anything he touches, he tends to screw up. Yes, his name is on a lot of really great films as well, but he didn't have a lot of involvement in there. It's usually he owned the rights and then only just put his name on as a producer, but he never actually did anything. With his film, he was heavily involved. It went through a number of directors and he kept firing people. They didn't see the vision of what he wanted. He wanted a goofy sort of Naked Gun type film, over the top and silly. And in certain aspects, that's exactly what this film is, in others it's not. And by pushing that and making it so dumb, it's sort of something, a film that's become kind of a joke when it could have been a really great action film, especially with these two leads. Sylvester Stallone, in the 90s, was the top of his game, you know, coming from doing Rocky and Rambo and movies like that, and really owning the 90s with this and Demolition Man and The Specialist and a variety of others. And to have him as a lead in this is really great. I think he's a really good character in this as Tango. I think he does a great job and is kind of fun and doesn't take himself too seriously, but he gets to do a lot of the action stuff he's very well known for. And Kurt Russell, he started his career very young, but in the 90s he was really owning it, especially when he was working with Carpenter and a variety of the roles that popped up. And he's so great in Tombstone, Breakdown, movies like that. But I really like him in this. He does feel very reminiscent of Mel Gibson's Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon. But I think that's kind of what they're going for. The way he's dressed, his hair, the way he acts, the whole thing is definitely him. It definitely feels like that character that they've sort of put Kurt Russell in, who does a different job with that character, of course, but it does feel very similar. Jack Palance as the villain is really good. It has, Terry Hatcher's great in it. She's only in a small role, but she's very fun in it, and I like her performance and appearance. There's a lot going for this film. There's some great all the action is really well done and captured and fun. And that all comes down, the reason the action works so well is it was directed by somebody else who came in, Stuart Bird, who did Executive Decision, another film with Kurt Russell. He came in and re-edited the film and did a lot of the action stuff and made it look the way it did. And it was fantastic what he did with it. I just wish the rest of the film was like that. It has some funny, silly one-liners that work really well, especially when they're delivered by Kurt Russell. And it is a fun, exciting adventure. It's a bit too short, and like I said, it's a bit too goofy for what it could have really been. Despite all the issues this film had and the directors it went through and the involvement and meddling of John Peters, this is quite a fun and entertaining movie that I had a real ball with, and I do every time I watch it. It's just a good, silly action film you can just throw on and enjoy every now and again. And you don't have to take it too serious because it's meant to be fun. I am surprised by all the bad things that did come out about this film because I thought it was really, really great. I wish the people behind the scenes could have come together and made something a bit more the vision of the original director. The film follows the story of two titan rivaling police detectives who are forced to work together after a criminal mastermind frames them for murder. And like I mentioned, Terry Hatcher's in this. I had a big crush on her when I was a kid, or a young teen, I suppose, especially with Lois and Clark. And I really like her in this, and it's one of my favourite performances by her because she's really fun in it. I like the music, I like the setting, I like all the action set pieces and all the action scenes, and I just think it's a really great film. This is a film that really put out there the expression FUBAR, fucked up beyond all recognition that Kurt Russell says. I think it's a fun little thing, and it is something that is talked about later, and it became such an iconic line and saying that it's just really, I like where it comes from. And they ultimately went on to use that for Arnold Schwarzenegger's new action spy show that he did. Characters are fine by themselves, but it's when they come together, when they work off each other and bounce off each other, that the film really becomes exciting and interesting. And the way that these two guys form a friendship in this craziness, even though they're vastly different from each other. Like I mentioned, there's some great sequences, action sequences. The escape from the prison's really fun and great. The final act is really cool. There's this whole thing that I started to notice, especially in the late 80s and early 90s. There's a lot of films, especially action films, that end with characters standing in front of a mirror and the hero trying to work out which one's really them. They used it in The Shadow, they used it in a variety of other films, and I don't know whether this was a theme that they thought was really great, the reflection or whatever, or thought, wow, they saw Enter the Dragon and they thought, what a great idea, we'll take what Bruce Lee did that and we'll form it into our 90s films. But there's a lot of films like that which I think is quite strange. In the end, this is a very highly entertaining film, somewhat goofy and silly at times, but it's definitely one of the good and fun buddy action comedies that came out that followed suit after Lethal Weapon. The leads are great. The film sort of transports me back to when I was younger once again, to a time when action films were made to be just pure entertainment and have not too much depth or too much, story or plot, just there to be pure entertainment. And this is exactly what this film is. It could have been better, but it just didn't quite get there because of all the meddling of John Peters, but it is still very fun. And like I said, it's a film I go back to time and time again. If you like a good action movie, this is definitely worth checking out. Anyway, that's all from me today. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe down the bottom, follow me on Letterboxd and Facebook. Otherwise, until next time, enjoy the movies.